Greetings, legends, and 2 days ago we started kicking around a idea in our Discord server, and there have been a couple other videos that have popped up with a similar idea since then, but this idea is a little bit unique. The latest trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home is dropped, and in it we get the not so brand new information that the MCU contains a multiverse. Just a super quick recap for you, the multiverse was first introduced and discussed during the film Doctor Strange, but we haven't had much time for explanation of said multiverse with the threat of Thanos looming in the background. It also doesn't help that Doctor Strange was dead for 5 years in the MCU, so now that he's back, we'll get around to it. Anywho, now that everyone is back, we can resume world building, and it's clear that the future of the MCU is going to have to deal with time travel, parallel realities, and the multiverse. In the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, we've seen Nick Fury introduce Spider-Man to a character named Quentin Beck. Presumably this is their first meeting, and Quentin mentions to Peter that he wishes that he had a hero like Spider-Man back on his world. Nick Fury explains that the snap tore a hole in realities, and subsequent reality tearing informed S.H.I.E.L.D. of parallel realities, which Peter quickly deduces is in fact a multiverse. Mysterio in another clip goes on to tell Peter that his world is designated Earth 616, which comic fans will identify as the main Marvel continuity from the comics. Mysterio's world is designated Earth 818. Earth 818 is also dubbed the Earth of Infinite Loss, which is also pretty interesting. The other side note I will mention here is that this Earth was actually revealed to exist far before in Thor: The Dark World, when it was written in the lab of Eric Selvig. Now, we don't know the whole backstory here, but it is presumed that Mysterio came to our world from another world. From the things that Quentin says, it makes it seem like some terrible tragedy befell their world, and if Spider-Man was there, he could have helped them to save it. I don't know, I'm just guessing, but that's what I imagine the story will be. Now, a common theory online right now is that Mysterio is basically lying. He isn't some hero from another world working to protect our world from presumed threats. He is actually, just like he is in the comics, a con man that is working his way into fame and notoriety by duping people into believing that he is a hero. This is not a new theory. We actually covered this months and months ago on the day that the first Spider-Man Far From Home trailer dropped. However, I am here to present another theory completely. As the title of this video suggests, I want to present a more crazy theory. What if the Mysterio that we know as Quentin Beck is actually Peter Parker of that universe that he comes from? Now, this theory is a bit out there, but this is YouTube. None of us know the truth, and anybody who tries to tell you otherwise is kind of a snake oil salesman, so we're all just out here speculating and theory crafting. So obviously this would be a huge departure from what we've seen in the MCU so far, but not necessarily a huge departure from what we know about Spider-Man comics and recent Spider-Man films. Let's start by assuming that parallel realities of the MCU multiverse might not necessarily be completely different than our main one. If you think about alternate realities as a matter of choices and effects, there could be infinite realities with infinite different versions of characters. There are realities where characters swap age, sex, powers, background history, basically anything that you could think of. They might not even exist at all. So obviously let's start by discussing the age difference. Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal aren't even close in age, with Gyllenhaal 16 years older than Holland, so it's presumably safe to assume that if this was Peter Parker from another dimension, this Peter Parker was born way earlier than ours. I don't think that this is a definitive giveaway, but it's certainly something to consider. In the comic books, Ultimate Peter Parker, when introduced, is significantly younger than the main continuity 616 Spider-Man. The same can be said about Into the Spider-Verse, where Miles Morales' universe's Peter Parker is a grown man, but Gwen Stacy's universe's Peter Parker is the same age as her. That is, until he dies. Also in Spider-Verse, you can see how multiple versions of Peter can look completely different, with hair color, age, and body type all changing. Now let's discuss some of his motivations. Why would he even have come over? It was revealed in an interview that Spider-Man and Mysterio have a similar partnership that Iron Man and Spider-Man have. They are partners, but Mysterio is very much the mentor. For every occurrence where Nick Fury tells Peter to do better and shape up, Mysterio is there to tell him he did a good job. Mysterio is providing the mentorship that Peter lacks with Tony Stark out of the picture. This also makes sense considering in the first trailer, Flash mentions that Mysterio's costume even kinda resembles Iron Man's. One simple option is that perhaps this version of Mysterio is a Peter Parker from another world where he failed as Spider-Man or as Mysterio, and this is his way of making amends with what he did, guiding himself down a path where he can atone for the mistakes that he committed on his world, possibly guiding him towards his ultimate goal of being seen as the same type of hero as Iron Man was, a beacon of heroism. But this next theory is a real doozy. There is a fairly popular theory floating around online that another Spider-Man villain named the Chameleon is in this film. The Chameleon is a longtime villain associated with Spider-Man and is known as a master of espionage, with a specialty in changing his appearance to look like anybody he wants. This speculation started when actor Numan Acar was revealed to be playing the role of Dimitri. Now, this has also been confirmed by the director in a recent interview where John Watts mentioned that this role is being kept tightly under wraps, but he wasn't specifically saying the actor was or wasn't the Chameleon. Another popular theory online is that the character we know as Mysterio from the trailers is working with this mystery man in order to help gain clout with S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, that makes sense. All of that is important to know because my theory is going to go directly off the rails into Crazy Town. I want to present a different theory altogether. What if this role is not actually the Chameleon? What if this character is actually Mysterio? A different Mysterio altogether. A character who came to our world, but for a completely different reason than anybody would have suspected. What if this character played by Numan Acar is, on his world, a hero that goes by the name Mysterio? And subsequently, what if the character played by Jake Gyllenhaal is really Peter Parker, a villain of his universe? So think about it. The character played by Jake Gyllenhaal, which we will refer to as Alternate Peter, comes to our world as a fugitive. An evil alternate Peter Spider-Man who has lived his whole life as a bad guy since gaining his powers. On his world, Spider-Man is a villain, and Mysterio is a hero trying to bring him to justice. The old classic role reversal. However, when Jake Gyllenhaal's Peter Parker arrives in our reality, he finds out that this world already has a Spider-Man, and our Spider-Man is already a pretty semi-famous hero. Well, he would need a new identity. It doesn't make sense if there are two Spider-Man running around, especially in a world where the average person doesn't know anything about multiple realities. Hell, these people are probably traumatized from the Thanos snap. We definitely don't want the whole world knowing about parallel realities. Especially if this Peter is trying to avoid being caught. So he formulates a plan. Why not just become a good guy and live that lifestyle? He decides to adopt a new mantle he already knows. He chooses the mantle of his greatest adversary on his homeworld, Mysterio. In order to prove to this world that he's a hero, he would stage elaborate hoaxes like these elemental creatures, and then he swoops in and saves the day. He could live on this world as a hero, where he's free from the mistakes of his past. It certainly lines up with his dialogue in the trailer discussing the losses that he's dealt with, possibly the losses that he's created by being a dick, but the carnage that he's unleashed in order to gain this clout is still pretty villainous in nature. This is where Numan Acar's true Mysterio could step in and bring him to justice, informing the rest of the cast of his true origins and motivations. Now, I will admit there are some loopholes here, like if Jake Gyllenhaal's alternate Peter Parker comes to our world, why don't we see him use his incredible strength, speed, and agility he has from gaining spider powers? Well, for one, we've only seen a little bit of footage. He might be much stronger than we anticipate. Maybe he's hiding that strength in order to not sound any alarm bells, or it could even be as simple as he doesn't have any powers or he lost them. That's kind of the beauty of theory crafting. There are infinite paths to take, and all of them open up new doors to exploring ideas and theories. Another reason that this would be incredibly interesting is because, as legend has it, Jake Gyllenhaal almost replaced Tobey Maguire in the original Spider-Man trilogy. Due to issues that Tobey was having with the studio before filming Spider-Man 2, they almost had to switch actors and bring in somebody new, and Jake was going to be that actor. But ultimately, that is not how history worked out. But anyways, that is my new theory for Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, do I think that this is going to pan out? Probably not. My earlier video outline was what I think will actually happen in the film, but these types of avenues are pretty fun to go down as well. So I would like to think that Marvel has a bigger twist planned for this film than, geez, Mysterio was actually a bad guy the whole time. I think we all kind of anticipated that to be the case anyway, right? This theory is a bit crazy, but it might be a bit more unique and go to show how drastically different the parallel realities of the MCU multiverse could actually be. Thank you guys for checking out this video, and if you like this theory, feel free to share this video with your friends online. It really helps us out big time, and that's how channels grow. Also, make sure to like and subscribe and all the other crap that YouTubers beg you to do, and if you like discussing content like this, consider joining our Discord. That link is below, and you can meet tons of people who love theory crafting and discussing comics and comic film. This has been Nick with Key Issues, and you know the motto, comics over everything.